Manchester's assumption, then, after seeing us foolishly venturing through the most dangerous area of Eastwind, must have been that we were on his side, or doing him a favor by handling the entity that had brought intense and targeted drought to town. That way, he could focus all his efforts on cleaning up the mess over in Erin Park. The one that resulted from the demon, God, whatever she actually was, drinking all the booze in Sheehan's pub and causing Rainbow Falls to slow to a trickle, exposing the town's gold reserves, which immediately went missing. His assumption was correct. If that got my name scratched off his list of suspects, great. With all the trouble that trip had caused, I would take whatever silver lining I could get. And if Stu Manchester had the sense not to mention to anyone else that I'd gone traipsing through the deadwoods with an incredibly attractive man who was not the one I was dating, then Stu was all right in my book, and I'd keep having his pie and coffee ready for him when he showed up each morning. "Just between us," Stu said around a mound of warm pie shoved into his cheek, "I think the gold is long gone. Probably stashed in some connecting realm. All the gold reserves in Eastwind would be nothing more than a drop in the bucket in, say, Avalon." "You think the person who took them is also gone?" He sighed. "It would make sense, wouldn't it? Why send the money someplace where it's not readily available to you? That's the lead I've been following, but I haven't heard about anyone moving out of Eastwind around the time of the theft. I've even asked Blanche Bridgewater and the Flufferbum brothers." He rolled his eyes like, "Don't ask." "If anyone keeps up with the mundane comings and goings of Eastwind, it's them." "Maybe you've got a smarter criminal on your hands than you think." He frowned, bobbing his head, then sipped his piping hot coffee. "Yeah, I'm afraid that's the case. Probably stashed it until the heat dies down on the investigation. Then he or she will find some convenient excuse to leave town. The death of a relative, a made-up job opportunity. You know, something like that." The bell above the door rang again, and I looked up to see two of the last faces I'd wanted to see today, or ever, really. I wasn't entirely certain Lucent Lovelace and Seamus Shaw were allowed in here. If anyone had the honor of being on our no-dine list, it was those two. Surely someone, either Tanner or the former owner Bruce, had banned them. To my memory, they'd never been by medium rare before. I didn't doubt that they spent quite a bit of time causing trouble in the outskirts, which was a predominantly werewolf neighborhood, even though Lucent still lived in Hightower Gardens, Eastwind's wealthiest werewolf neighborhood and the socioeconomic antithesis of the outskirts. I'd had the privilege of avoiding Seamus Shaw for the last couple of months. The last time I'd seen the leprechaun was when he'd made a sloppy pass at me in Sheehan's pub, and Tanner had set him straight. Seamus didn't appear drunk at the moment, which struck me as odd. Never in any of the town's gossip I was subjected to on a daily basis by loyal patrons was there a mention of Seamus sober. Never mind that it was currently noon on a Monday. I'd once heard about him fighting a duck, a regular one, not a were-duck, just after sunrise on a Tuesday. I wasn't sure if "it's 5 o'clock somewhere" was a phrase Eastwind was familiar with, but regardless of if he had the words for it or not, it was a creed Seamus lived by. And strangely, one that everyone just sort of tolerated. I wondered if they knew about staging an intervention in this town. "Well, hello there, beautiful," Seamus said, leaning against the countertop on one side of Stu, with Lucent flanking the deputy on the other. I tried not to laugh at Seamus, who was hardly tall enough to peer over the counter at me. Leprechauns were sensitive about their height, or lack of it, and I didn't want to give him any reason to cause a scene. Seamus nodded at Stu. "Sorry to cut in, Manchester, but I could tell she wasn't into your flirting." I glanced at Stu, who rolled his eyes. "Probably because I wasn't flirting, Shaw. Ms. Ashcroft was simply asking me about the ongoing investigation of the missing gold reserves." "Oh, yeah?" Seamus said, perking up. "Can't do it yourself, deputy? Trying to get a woman to help you out?" Stu scrunched up his nose like he'd smelled something rotten. "Obviously. I have women help me all the time."